What are you doing?
Looking for some noodles.
What kind of noodles?
Egg noodles, because I would like chicken noodle soup for dinner.
Oh, we don't have any egg noodles.
Well, what am I supposed to do then?
Let me show you how I make egg noodles.
You can make egg noodles?
Yes, from a 1944 era recipe. Come inside. Okay, so I'm just putting the flour and a little bit of salt in my food processor. You can make this by hand, but I use my food processor because it makes it a lot easier. And I'm just going to blend that together really quick. Okay, and while the food processor is running, I'm just going to give it a quick whiz real quick. And while it's running, I'm going to add the egg yolk. And then the recipe says add, I think it's like 2 tablespoons of water, but I always find I need to add more water. So I have a little squirt bottle here with some lukewarm water in it, and I'm just going to squirt it in there until it forms a ball in the food processor. So if you're doing this by hand, I will put the recipe for you down below in the description box. So if you're doing it by hand, follow the recipe as it's written, the instructions as it's written. But if you're doing it this way, just follow how I do it in the food processor. I swear it makes it a lot easier. I make this during the week for dinner, and it's just pretty quick and easy when you do it this way. So, and as you can see, it's starting to collect into a dough. And I'm just gonna let it go a little bit. I don't knead this dough after I've made it in the food processor because I figured this is pretty much kneading it. And then as you can see, it's starting to collect into a ball on the side. And so I'll just keep letting it go, and then once it's done, you stop it, and then be careful with the blade, and then you just gather it up into a ball and set it aside. And then we just roll these out, and it's pretty quick dinner. So let me show you. It's kind of a sticky dough. You don't want to add too much water, but you do need enough water to make it actually come together into a dough. So there you go, and I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to make 2 batches. Okay, I have a clean, lint-free towel that I'm just really flouring well. And I'm gonna roll my dough out onto this. And then I'm gonna use a pizza wheel to cut it into strips. You can make the strips as thick or as big or as narrow as you'd like, and long and short as you'd like, whatever your preference is. The recipe does say to roll this out till paper thin, so I got mine pretty thin, probably not paper thin. It was kind of hurting my wrists to do this, so I had Dan do the second batch. But again, like I said, I'll put the original instructions in the video description box so that you can follow those if you prefer. Because it has you roll up the dough, kind of like a jelly roll, and then slice it that way. And then once you're done doing this, you want to set it aside to kind of dry somewhat. Now, I never store these longer than a couple hours, so I don't let them dry completely, but the recipe does say to let them dry completely and then to bring it to a boil when you're ready to use it, and then you add it to your recipe. But I just use these the day that I make them, so I just let them dry a couple hours on the towel, and then I use them in my recipe. And here we have Muscle Man Dan rolling out the second batch. If you find that your dough shrinks back too much and it's difficult to roll out, you need to let the gluten rest. So just let the dough rest for like 20 minutes or so. The recipe actually does say to let the dough rest after you've kneaded it. But that'll relax the gluten and then let you roll it out a lot easier without it shrinking back. Okay, so Dan and I decided to obviously put this in chicken noodle soup like he mentioned earlier. So earlier this week I roasted 2 chickens and pulled the meat off the bones. And in that blue pot back there I have the bones, and I'm making a stock. And then I have Dan chopping up some celery, and he's gonna chop up this onion for me. My finger. And then I have some shredded carrots because I like shredded carrots rather than dicing carrots. And then just do like half the onion, Dan. And then I put a little bit of garlic, and into that pot we'll saute all the vegetables once the bones are done cooking. And then we will get our soup going. And if you can see way over there, those are 2 batches of noodles that are just kind of waiting to be cooked. How are you doing, Dan?
Good.
Dan's tired.
No, you just told me you wanted me to cut celery. Now you're making me cut an onion.
Oh.
And I'm so upset I'm probably going to start crying.
Please don't cry.
It's a strong onion.
Yeah. So, yep. So that's what we're doing. It's Saturday. This is our Saturday night. I haven't made a video in a while because I've been freaking lazy. Wish I had a better excuse, but I don't. Just lazy. I'm gonna speed this up.
You know, I used to know a good way to do this, but I don't remember how to do it now.
Oh, whatever.
That's because you do all the cooking.
I know.
Literally all the cooking. If it wasn't for you, I'd probably starve to death.
No, I think you'd find a way.
Yeah, it's called my telephone.
Life finds a way.
You know, that was one of the most famous lines from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I remember that one. Okay, now Dan's chopping up the chicken.
Is that good?
Let's just cook all of it. Or I guess I could freeze some of it.
It's a lot.
Put my vegetables into a bowl. You can put whatever vegetables you want in your soup. Like, I've used these noodles. I've made beef, what am I trying to say? My God. I have used these noodles in beef stroganoff, in pork and noodles, which was Dan's grandma's recipe. Anywhere you need, like, noodles, like, you know, egg noodles, you can use these noodles, and they're really, really good. Really good. We always make 2 batches whenever we make any sort of recipe because we just love the noodles so much. Right, Dan?
As my niece would say, they're homemade noonies.
Yeah, Dan likes to talk like a little girl. It's awesome. Noonies?
Yeah.
Okay, you sure you just don't want to throw that whole chicken in? I guess, what to do? We'll just freeze the rest of it.
Okay.
Chicken soup is cooking. Puppy break. Hi, baby. Kitty break. Hi. It's your month. It's your month, thanks. Yeah, oh, stretch them toots. Here's another one. So handsome. Good boy. Pretty girl. Pretty puppy. Aw. Let me show you what we got going on in this pot. Chicken carcasses. Just gonna get as much flavor out of these as possible. These chicken has gone up a lot in price lately. My laying hens are starting to look pretty tasty. I kid. Alright, I think this is done. It didn't make very much broth, stock, whatever you want to call it. It didn't make very much, so I might have to use a little bit of bouillon, which is okay. Alright, I'm going to add some butter to this, saute my vegetables, and then we'll get the soup going. Alright, sauteing these in a little bit of butter. I think it's time to add sorry, you guys are probably getting motion sickness from me. I know somebody's going to ask me how I made my soup. I don't have a recipe I follow. I just kind of wing it and hope for the best. So I just threw the stock in there. I'm going to add a little bit of water, and I'm going to taste it later on and see if it needs a little bit of bouillon. Sometimes I find that, I don't know, some chickens don't have a really strong chicken flavor and they need a little help. A little bit of help from this guy, but that's okay. And then I'm going to season it with salt, pepper, and poultry seasoning. And I also like to throw a little turmeric in just for color. It really gives it a beautiful color, but I think I'm out of turmeric. I keep forgetting to buy it, so no turmeric for us unless I can find some. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to add a little bit of water and then the chicken, and we'll just get this nice and thickened up. Okay, so my soup is basically done. I've got it at a full boil, and I've separated my noodles, and I'm just going to start adding them. Sometimes they stick together a little bit. That's okay. You can always just pull them apart. And I think we're going to have a lot of noodles in this soup, Dan.
Dan loves homemade noonies.
Oh, God, don't talk like that. That's so weird. and they puff up, and they don't take too long to cook, maybe just like a few minutes.
It smells delicious. Boy, there is a lot, isn't there?
Yeah. They kind of separate out when you get them in the water, I've noticed, so. This is gonna be noodles and chicken, not chicken and noodles. Oh shit, I dropped one on this burner.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, these are like thick and kind of chewy, and but not like tough chewy, delicious chewy. They're so good.
Yeah, I absolutely love your homemade noodles.
Thank you.
Delicious, like everything else you cook.
Don't thank me, thank Women's Home Companion Cookbook. This is their
From
recipe.
what year?
1944. We'll go over it
Whoa.
when we do the taste test. But look at that. See, they're already getting nice and thick and delicious. All right. So let these cook for a few minutes, and then we can eat. Yep, delicious.
I don't know how to do it.
So we're here. That was mine. I gave you the one more. All right, so let's taste the noodles. Oh, they're hot.
Oh, I love homemade noodles. They're just so. There's nothing like them.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So they're nice and they puff up when they cook, so they get pretty thick, and they're just slightly chewy, but just really good. There's nothing like homemade noodles. And I'm not saying I'm a noodle making expert, because clearly I'm not, but this is how I do it, and we find the results to be quite satisfactory. So, and the chicken noodle soup isn't bad either, so that's just how I do it. We're happy with it. Anyway, so the noodle recipe comes from the Woman's Home Companion Cookbook. This is from 1944. And basically any place that you would like a nice thick noodle, like an egg noodle, you can use these. So like I said before, I make it in the food processor because it makes it a lot faster for me. But in the video description, I will post the original recipe. We're making it by hand and doing it by hand. But if you want to do it through the food processor, just follow how I did it in the video. So yeah, what do you think of dinner? And then I'm not going to post the chicken noodle soup recipe because I don't really measure anything out. I just kind of use what I've got on hand.
And it always turns out delicious.
But if somebody does want that, just let me know, and I can kind of quickly type up a quick recipe and I'll give it to you. But yeah, delicious. Yeah, delicious and really versatile. Like I said before, I like making beef stroganoff with and using these noodles.
Oh yeah.
Then pork and noodles. Dan's grandma used to make pork and noodles. And I use
just pork noodles.
Pork noodles?
Yeah, just pork noodles.
There's no and?
No.
So I've been saying it wrong? Oh, pork noodles. Okay, whatever. But anyway, so which is a really simple, good dish. And I use these noodles rather than store-bought noodles just because we love them so much. I've been meaning to do a video on this recipe for a long time. It's just, I've been a little lazy, so.
It happens.
It happens. It happens to me a lot. So anyways, there you go. Noodles from 1944, versatile. And if you make it, please leave me a comment and let me know how you like it and which method you used. Did you use a food processor or did you do it by hand? All right, so there you go. Noodles from 1944. If you're ever curious as to what they taste like, they're delicious. Okay, so.
Delicious.
Let's get it. Let me pose with that so I can take a picture of it. All right. If you have any video suggestions, please leave me a comment, and I check my analytics frequently, so I'll respond to your comment. And there we go. So I hope to see you guys in the next video.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.